Good afternoon and welcome to United TV. My name is Kemal Erkan. Today is January 24th, 2025. We have different topics again for this week. We are going to have some recap of what happened in the last couple of weeks. And then we have a guest speaker with us. Haan is going to join me, and we are going to discuss the insurance processing issues in the state of Delaware. And I think it can be even broader than just Delaware, because we do have clients in 28 different states. But mainly we are going to actually give examples from the state of Delaware. So Katie is going to join me. She's in our studio with me. Katie, how are you doing?
Hi, Kemal. I'm good. How are you?
Good. So you have done this a couple times with us, and we are happy to see you again.
Thanks. Happy to be here.
Now we want to kind of actually answer some of the issues with the insurance processing that we have. Like, we are an RCM, revenue cycle management company, aka medical billing. This is one of our core responsibilities, as well as we provide PM, practice management, and EMR services. We are a clinically integrated. We are a clinically integrated office organization with accountable care. So, but yet we still have the issues on the fee-for-service side and getting the claims paid. Providing services for multiple specialties, this becomes a huge problem. And one of our associate directors at United Medical, I think your input and your examples are going to be important for people to understand. Now, one actually issue that I want to kind of put out there, one reminder that I want people to kind of remember: insurance, when we say insurance, the healthcare processing in terms of the claims, these are not necessarily insured by the insurance companies. So insurance companies, 70 to 80% of the time, the range of 70 to 80%, they are processing employers' claims. These are self-funded programs. I believe this is important because there are a lot of discussions that we have since last month, and it's still happening this month as well. And there is this misunderstanding or misperception of the insurance. So just keep in mind that 3 out of 4 insurances are processing the claims on behalf of the employers. So they're not responsible financially. This is more like I call them like a reverse billing company in a way. So this is why this is important, is because if you are questioning your coverage, like we are going to have the Bariatric Friday today at 3 p.m. And just this morning, there are a couple patients who didn't have bariatric coverage. And immediately, some of our people in the case conference, they thought it was an insurance issue. And I'm like, no, it's like the employer. Let's look at who the employer is. And it's going to the employer. Now, not every employer is self-funded, like United Medical is not. But the bigger, much bigger organizations, such as State of Delaware, such as Christiana Hospital, Bank of America, these are self-funded employers. So I want to make sure that every time we are going through these issues, I want you to keep that in mind, so then it will help our discussion. And I'm going to have Katie to explain what issues they're going through.
Yeah, thanks. The fact that a lot of these plans are actually self-funded is really significant to everything that we're talking about. Some of the laws that have actually been created to maybe mitigate some of these issues don't apply to self-funded plans. So, for example, there was a House bill that came out in 2017, 2018, and for insurance takebacks, they tried to restrict it to be 2 years. However, that excluded self-funded plans. And so, as Kemal, like you said, if you're excluding 75% of the population and your claims, while that may help a little bit, it's not really addressing the core issue. One of the first things that you said as well was, we go through all of these struggles to get the claims paid. Once we get this paid, it's kind of a relief, right? But then what's happening is we're getting takebacks. And so often what we'll see is a claim will pay. In theory, how it should work is the employer will pay for the patient to have insurance. The insurance will pay as the claims, but then the insurance takes back the payment. And a couple issues that we have with that is, number one, after the insurance takes back the payment, does that money go back to the employer? And from what we've seen, I'm not inclined to believe that that's always the case. You mentioned the state of Delaware. It's really honestly an efficient way for the insurances to make some money. But just to go back a little bit, here in the state of Delaware, we have 3 main managed Medicaids. So we have Highmark Health Options, AmeriHealth Caritas, and Delaware First Health. And then the main commercial carriers are Blue Cross, Aetna, Cigna, and United Healthcare. That's just to give you an idea of the ones that are in the state
And
themselves.
we see this problem with across the board.
Yeah, of course. It's not limited to any specific insurance or anything like that. But just per the population of Delaware, those are the main ones that we are looking at. So just a couple terms for those who may not be as familiar with the billing. So we have a term take back. So I just mentioned that when an insurance pays, that's great, but they can take back their funds. Sometimes they'll send us a letter telling us why, but in other cases, they're just going to take back their money. So what they do is they actually offset it of a future claim. So that's another issue as well. Not only do we not have prior notice that, hey, there's an issue, we're trying to rectify this, the money just disappears and we don't get payment for future claims. So it really does get a little dicey in there. Another term that I might throw around is authorization. So authorization is generally an agreement between the insurance and the office to say, hey, I'm approving this specific procedure or service as it is to pay. So one thing that we do see, and hopefully you guys can follow me here, but when an insurance will pay, it will get taken back and they'll say that another insurance is primary. So we have to go and we have to do research. We have to find that other carrier. Once we find that other carrier, when we submit it, then we run into a bunch of issues there. So after we submit the claim, we could get denial for timely filing. We could get denied for authorization. We could get denied for duplicate. We could get denied for XYZ. It creates this whole litany of issues where when we originally verified the eligibility with the primary insurance, they said that they were primary. They took responsibility for that claim. So they're kind of reneging on that, and it just really causes a lot of issues.
So just so that for people to kind of able to follow this, so we have a patient who's seen in one of our offices. Let's make this an example for well, it's okay for primary care. So then primary care checks the insurance eligibility. And then we see the patient, we get paid. And 2 years from the time of the service and payment, this insurance who made the payment comes back and then says, hey, well, so they can do it in 2 different ways. One is, hey, we kind of paid you, but there was another insurance we just discovered, or they don't even say anything, even just offset.
Right.
So the second part is very problematic because many of the medical offices may not even know that this may be happening. But from our point, because of our medical processing, claims is extremely efficient, and we kind of check our days in AR and account receivable very closely. So if any take back happens, we know that our old AR is going to increase. Therefore, we are able to flag these right away. Now, if there's this other insurance, so once they take the money back, 2 years now we are going back to the new insurance who didn't know that this service was provided. And then we first get a denial because it's untimely.
Right.
So then we have to make an appeal to get paid. So, and then because that appeal requires all the supporting documentation. Now, if the medical office did not have a screenshot of the eligibility, like there are a lot of places, it's just an auto process. So you don't necessarily get manual screenshots. You just get the confirmation of eligibility, which may not be available to the billing service that time. So if we don't have any of those, we may not get paid for that service. Right. So the money is taken back, service is provided, and then it's over. Right. So when going back to the first step, when the money is taken back, what you were saying is related to my opening sentence about like the third-party administration, which is the self-funded plan processing. So that money, we don't know if this money goes back to those employers, and because 2 years later, and then that employer may not even be with this insurance company anymore, right? So that's kind of like for people to put it in perspective that you buy something 2 years later, you are able to return, take the money back, but not the service.
Right.
So then you are trying to see who else can pay you. It's just like it's one of a kind. Like there's no other industry who's designed in this way.
Yeah.
So
definitely correct. One other thing, as you were discussing, like timely filing, is it's so interesting that the insurances are almost held to a different standard than the providers, right? So they can go back these 2 years unless there's fraud, waste, or abuse, which is completely open to interpretation, unless it's self-funded. Meanwhile, the providers only have a limited time to submit their claims. So that timely filing standard isn't really a fair standard at all. So,
yep.
Yeah. Actually, one other note. So I was working on one today as well. The date of service was from May of 2023. Take back just occurred last month. When I went to research it, I couldn't even verify the eligibility for the new insurance because the insurance system won't let me go back that far.
Right.
So it's crazy that they can take it back, but then I can't even confirm the primary insurance. So it's definitely not a job for the faint of heart, but thanks for talking about it.
Absolutely. Now, we are taking a different kind of step to or plan of action to correct these problems for the last couple of years. If you can discuss the insurance commissioner's role in what we are trying to do to kind of fix these problems. And also, I will talk about a little bit on the primary care bill, primary care reform, and prior authorization reform so that we can actually tell our audience what we are doing to fix some of these issues.
Yeah. So utilizing the insurance commissioner has been really just a great advantage for our office. Through the state of Delaware, you can file a complaint, or actually any state, but specifically we're talking about Delaware right now. You can file a complaint if the insurance is not processing correctly. So, for example, if they're not processing in their allotted time frame of 30 days, we can file a complaint. Often what we see is after we file those appeals, after the timely filing denial, we'll get another denial. We'll have to appeal again, or the insurance will lose the appeal. So filing insurance commissioner complaints is just it's a great process to hold that insurance accountable. And those insurances do get notified. They could potentially get penalized as well. But even if they're not directly under the commissioner's jurisdiction, they do get notified. So it's really been a great workflow for our team to identify ways that the insurances aren't following the orders that they're supposed to be following.
Right. So we are also working with our state officials, the Senate and the House level, and the Insurance Commissioner's Office to see if we can give several examples of the same issue. And I think that is that's going to help to kind of fix this issue. And what we want is like a reasonable terms. Yeah. Reasonable terms is you have, let's say, I'm going to use Aetna as an example. If Aetna has 120 days initial time to filing condition for the providers, so their take back should be limited with 4 months from the time from the payment.
Right.
So now I think we are going to be able to bring that to 1 year, I believe. But the next, once we fix that, next would be just making that equal. So then it's a fair game for both parties. Right now, when you remember when with the surgery center, when we got hit with claims, that was from 2.5 years ago.
Yeah.
And like we have to just go back to everything that we already did. And now we are reopening. And instead of trying to, and then also we have issues with getting paid at the same time.
Having issues getting paid to begin with, and then after they pay. And to your point, if these are self-funded plans, what if that patient doesn't even work at that specific location anymore? Like, yes, the employer should cooperate with the insurance, but there's no guarantee the patient still works there. There's no guarantee, like you said, they even carry that insurance.
Absolutely.
So there's so many factors.
So, well, the number one responsibility of any insurance company, regardless of this is their risk group or self-funded employer group, they have to process the claims accurately and timely.
Right.
So that's all we want from them. So, and this is not what we have seen. Now,
it's not a big request.
One may say that, hey, that's the reason that there's a billing company. That's not correct, because we are, yes, there may be some reasonable issues that we may need to be able to fix. We still need to check the correct payment amount with the fee schedule. We still need to post them correctly. We still need to send the patient statements, file the claims with secondaries, right? So
yeah, absolutely.
Those are what we should be doing, not like something that comes from 2.5 years ago. And then one other thing, I don't know if we mentioned that, when we have these presentations, although I'm listening very carefully, but I miss a lot of things. So I'm just going to ask you anyway. So these audits that they have, so asking medical records, things that's provided.
Yeah.
This time they are still the covered party, but then they're saying that, we are going to do an audit, but it's from 2 years ago. Now pull all these records. So we give them access. They're like, no, you need to limit this access to only for this group of people. Well, technically that's not possible. So that you guys, your team spend a lot of time. Can we kind of elaborate that a little bit?
Yeah. So, I mean, it kind of goes back to that point of once you get paid, in theory, it's a sigh of relief, right? You're like, yay, we did it. We got paid. But then there's all these things coming afterwards. So there are retrospective reviews where they're asking for all of these records that you have compiled from different systems, from different hospitals. Not every hospital system is on the same network. So you have to coordinate with all of these different systems, pull all of these records, and then you have to send them. But how do you send them? Do you send them specifically to the insurance? Do you use their approved processor? Do you send XYZ? So even with that, there's so many different steps where this can fall apart. It's really not an efficient system, honestly. And like you said, a retrospective review, they're just looking back and saying, hey, okay, we already paid this. What can we do about it?
Right. So there's a lot of issues that we have that needs to be fixed. It's not only becoming more expensive, but it's also like time consuming with all these. And there are times where we feel so inefficient. Yesterday, we had a meeting with one of the value-based contracts where there was an issue of alignment of the patients. And we've been talking about these issues every month, right? So, hey, this patient is assigned to us, but someone else is seeing the patient. You have a claim for this. And then why are you still keeping this patient on my roster? Well, why that's important for us is because we are responsible for the quality metrics. So for someone else's patient that's seen by another provider, not part of our network, we have zero access, but they do. They still keep the patient on our roster. I'm like, why? And why do I have to have this discussion?
It's almost like if somebody else has a car, but like the car's not yours anymore. Just like it's so funny.
So like, but why am I responsible for the outcome? Right? That's the main thing. So, and it can be extremely frustrating.
Yeah.
So this is kind of, well, the way that we are addressing these issues is engaging and partnering with our state officials to see if they can hear our voice and our issues, and then come up with efficient ways to fix these issues. So hopefully that's going to happen. I think that's happening. So I'm going to take that back. So it is already happening. It's just like it's happening slowly.
It's a process.
Yeah. Anything else you would like to add? Did we cover everything?
I think we hit all of the items that I had.
I thought you had the whole hour.
Well,
All right.
thank you.
Well, Katie, thank you so much. So it's really good for you guys to come to these events and then share what's happening day to day. I know we are working very closely together, but still being able to share these and then make sure that other people are understanding what we are going through. And in some cases, even for patients and other maybe providers who are not part of United Medical, they can still maybe find these useful. And I know for a fact that a lot of practices don't have like professional medical billing RCM companies. They may not be aware of these problems and the level of these issues.
Yeah.
So that's for
or even have the staff to deal with it realistically. When we're bringing this up, not only is the AR team working, but we're going all the way up to chain to work on this. So they may not even have the resources.
All right. Well, thank you again. And then I will continue with our other topics that we normally cover with healthcare, economy, U.S. politics. So we are going to try a little bit different format today, and then hopefully it will go smoothly as we say goodbye to Katie. So I'm going to have one of our team members going to join me and give us the voice for some of the issues that we are discussing, and then I will be covering some of the questions and comments.
Sure. Yep. All right. So as you mentioned, we're going to transition now this part of the show to cover some of the U.S. news topics and other healthcare related issues. But before we do so, we can just recap on last week's episode. We know we had a very valuable guest joining us. That was actually Dr. David Feinberg, CEO of Oracle Health, able to join Kemal last Friday and discuss various healthcare issues. Kemal, if you just want to reflect on that issue, on that session with Dr. David Feinberg.
I think, when I go through these sessions, all of them are, I pretty much enjoy all of them. So, but when we have a high profile guest, it's kind of like, we want to make sure that we can ask the right questions so we can we can cover the right issues. And knowing at the Oracle's health chairman level, and also being able to work with them very closely. So there are certain things he was able to cover, which I believe the role of the AI in healthcare and the new investments Oracle has in healthcare, those are extremely important. And I was happy that we were able to be the bridge for some of these to go to other people to know. And I know Oracle is doing this on their own, but I'm hoping that we were able to contribute to the communication a little bit. And one of the other things that I think for someone at Dr. Feinberg's level, it was very pleasing to know that he's so humble. I mean, I'm not going to mention any numbers, but he's one of the most successful CEOs in the United States. Probably he's in the top 50. And that's not an easy spot. So like I'm not in the top 50 yet. So maybe in Delaware, but not in US. So, and for him to kind of know exactly what Oracle is doing day-to-day operations, and also from the big picture standpoint, where Oracle is going. So he's all over the place in a very efficient way. And that was important, and I'm hoping, I know we got a lot of good feedback from a lot of people, but I'm hoping that we can reach out to more people with that session.
Most definitely. And speaking of having guests on our show here, as well as other experts in their respective fields, we do want to mention the fact that you were actually a featured guest earlier in the week on a Turkish television program. So I was back on Monday, the 20th. So if you want to touch on your involvement there, again, we talk about the accessibility, like we just mentioned with David Feinberg being able to join us, your availability and willingness to join another show that's asking for your, views and opinions on different topics. I just want to touch on, again, your participation there on Monday.
So this was the TV channel was EKOLTV. It's one of the new channels, but it's growing very fast. They have a lot of, they transfer a lot of important people to their team. So it was really important for me to be part of their shows. So they were covering the Trump's inauguration. And for someone who's involved in politics, myself in the United States, as you guys know, I have, I know one of the journalists who works in DC, and he was actually part of the program, Arnold Withdrawal. So they asked me through him to see if I can actually be participating in their program. So then that's what I did. It was interesting. When I was watching it, there's, it didn't start with the most important topic. It was about Mrs. Trump's head. But then we were able to cover all the important points and what Trump's second term is going to be for United States and for the world. And also from that program, we got a lot of good feedback and some constructive criticism as well, because it's important that we are able to improve from where we are. I can see probably just repeating that in the future with other programs. There are a couple of people already reach out, so we'll see. I enjoy doing it. So it's just like the time, like it's, here daytime, there it was 10 p.m. So I had to reschedule some of the stuff, but I don't think I can do it every week, but once a month is doable.
Sure. And then also just following up on that, related to some Turkish news, as we know, they were able to cover the inauguration here in the U.S. and some of the breaking news happening in the U.S. was being covered in Turkey. But then going on the flip side, we know that not always all the news, I should say, maybe from Turkey wasn't necessarily make it to the U.S. So I know that there was a rather large fire that happened recently in Turkey that was breaking news for the country right there, but maybe media outlets here in the U.S. obviously wouldn't cover that. So just give you a little bit of opportunity here to shed some light on that.
So this was a really sad event. What happened there is it's a huge tragedy. So it's unbelievable. So this is one of the best ski resorts in Turkey. Almost 79 people died. They lost their lives and a lot of people injured. But problem usually, and sometimes I see that here in the United States as well, but in Turkey, when these things happen, they always want to blame someone. Now, some of those who are watching me from Turkey may not like what they hear from me, but I do actually say this time to time in different programs. The responsibility starts from the individual. So if we don't have that responsibility, and if everyone is trying to save the day by not doing certain things that's required, then we are going to be in trouble, because individual goes to the next level. What's the next level? The local level government. What's the next one? The state level. The next one is the federal level. So you can't, there's like, the government is not independent organization. Government is consist from the people. Like we have, our culture makes the government. So if the individual is able to get away with certain things and not do it, government is going to reflect that. So I'm going to give you one example, and hopefully Donnelly won't be upset with me, but over here in our office, there's a left turn where it's one way, but you know how we can turn on right when it's on the red light, we can turn, that's legal to turn right, but it's not legal to turn left. So we were driving for one of our meetings this week, and I asked him if he would ever actually go through this red light knowing that there's no car coming. And his answer was no. So in Turkey, this is what happens. So there is a, what do you call those, the New Jersey intersections, the round ones?
traffic circle, roundabout.
Traffic circles, we call them. So in Turkey, they have a different name. So those, what I see, not like in the city, like in the crowded places, what I see is some people, they don't want to go through the circle. They try to shortcut and make a U-turn from the immediate one where they can actually hit someone head to head.
Yeah.
So who does this is people. Who's not blaming that is at the individual level, people. So unless we have that culture change in Turkey, this is going to happen. So I know for a fact that there were a lot of ways to avoid this type of tragedy. But unless everyone takes responsibility from individual to the government, things are not going to actually resolve. And this is going to probably repeat. And it's just, I mean, how can you lose 80 people in one building? And it's because someone turned the fire alarm off because they have a very limited fire in the kitchen. That's how it happened. So instead of just letting things go and then making a huge, deal out of it, and then at least, even if the fire doesn't get bigger, let the people go. No, they're like, now everyone is talking about this huge problem, and there's a problem. And I'm hoping that we learn from these mistakes, but mistakes that we learn shouldn't be this harsh and sad. It's unfortunate.
Most definitely, like you said, definitely a learning opportunity there, kind of change that behavior. And then also we'd be remiss if we didn't mention the fires also happening in California, mainly LA.
In LA.
Yeah.
Right. So that's, we also see a lot of problems in that fire as well. So especially access to water was one of the biggest problems. And when we were talking about it and see, actually we weren't able to cover that. I don't believe, because we had different agenda items and we should have, but the way that actually happened is not having quality people to respond to these, and not understanding what equality versus being equal opportunity versus being diverse to kind of, I'm going to be diverse, but I'm going to hire people who are not able to do this job at the same level as the other person. So just because the sake of diversity, then you don't have people who are responding to the problems at the level that they should be. Now, equal opportunity is a different issue. Everyone should have the same level of opportunity, but being at certain positions, certain jobs, you need that expertise, and even just like someone with the right fit. Like, okay, if you have a police officer whose BMI is 52, okay, and he's gonna go after someone, that's not gonna happen. So you need someone who's fit to do the job. So, and you need someone who's big enough in some cases to do the job, or someone really fights very well to do the job. So this is maybe one of the reasons that I see, but this access to water was available, but that was diverted to a different place. That's a huge issue. And Gavin Newsom probably has to answer those and take the ownership on that issue. So because here, different than Turkey, we have the federal system. So each state is able to do their own rules, and we have the freedom in the state to make those rules. So then, it's not easy to blame the president at that point, but the governor who's in charge, who should take the responsibility. So not sure if that's going to happen.
Yeah, and I think, obviously they've been going on for a couple of weeks now, but I'm not sure if they're all fully contained, or obviously it's still going to be an issue that I'm sure there'll be numerous more updates and other, revelations coming from that on what went wrong, what could have been prevented. So I'm sure that'll come up again in the future at some point. And now just switching gears a little bit here, obviously, as we mentioned on Monday, you were participating on that Turkish television station to cover the inauguration. So President Trump being sworn in. We're going to shift a little bit here. We have some other questions that we'll get your perspective on, but just before we dive into those specific questions and other items, we just get your overall thoughts just on the inauguration itself.
Well, not that specific day, but overall approach is important. So, this is the kind of like the honeymoon of the new administration. So everything is going to look so great for a couple of weeks, but then reality is going to hit. So we have covered this in the last several months. One of the things that I've been saying is that, hey, you really need to take some of the opportunities and then advance from where we are. So Trump right now, President Trump has a huge opportunity to learn from his first term. And then what has happened in the Biden's term, now what opportunities we have, instead of being populist for the group that's just supporting him, what's the right thing and reasonable thing for the country to do, not going with the emotions, but going with, again, I unlike many people, I believe that Trump is not the term that I'm trying to, I'm blanking is, it will come to me, but he makes his decisions, he processes decisions, so he's not impulsive. So, okay, so he actually knows what he wants. One of the things that I always, I was happy with what he did. We didn't actually have any war in the world during the first Trump administration. Now, this doesn't mean that we cannot be strong, but we were able to avoid so many. Now, as soon as he's coming in, I can see certain things that he's doing already, including what's happening in Israel and Gaza. And we can already see the impact of what he's doing. Now, knowing that there will be less conflict around the world is a good thing. The only thing that I'm concerned is, I don't know if we are going to be able to get Greenland. That's going to be a tough one, but should we get it, I would rather be in Greenland than being in Afghanistan. So I would rather have I would rather be in Greenland than participating in a war in Ukraine, because then you can actually say this is important because it's right here, but it's not. I'm not saying that I agree or disagree, but it would make more sense to do to have a better control in Greenland. The other thing is what Denmark has done in Greenland is also needs to be. There has to be a good PR, because what Denmark has done with the young people, young girls, and affecting the population of this little or big island, and without those people's consent, they were putting IUDs for the fertility, so that people wouldn't get pregnant. So, and then this was against those people's will. And now, if you look at the population of Greenland, it didn't grow. It's because it was interfered by the Denmark kingdom. So I don't know why Denmark is a kingdom. So it's such a little country anyway. But why would they be over Greenland when it's right here? So when they are not able to provide the security and safety, because if they did, then Russia and China wouldn't be there. That's that simple. So I think it makes a lot of sense. Now, would we be able to get it without a war? I think, you know what, since we have these for the future, I think we can, because Denmark is part of the NATO, and NATO is fully almost financed by US. And if Denmark is not going to follow that, it's going to have a lot of issues. The other problem that I see related to the inauguration, where I see certain action coming from Trump's administration, is the Panama Canal, which I think we have full, it's in our full rights to demand transparency, and if China really is taking over the control of that canal, then that cannot happen. So, and those make sense. Now, having said this, I also want to use this, and I believe I mentioned this in our in the Monday program with the Turkish TV. Now, this also would probably help American politics to understand and have some empathy to what's happening in Turkey with Turkey's southern borders. So this is a immediate security issue, safety issue, and then I think it's in our rights to defend that and then take the right actions. My Democrat friends are not going to be happy what they are hearing right now, but it's okay. They will get over it.
All right. Another thing we're going to cover here a little bit is some of the executive orders, obviously, that came out in that first couple of days, the new presidency. One of the main things that was obviously drawing a lot of attention in the news was the fact of the United States leaving the World Health Organization, which we're actually going to merge this topic into one of our questions here. So obviously your initial reaction to the U.S. leaving the WHO, and then in your response, if you could include, in your opinion, maybe which country has the best healthcare system and why does it work so well for that country? Because we know healthcare obviously was a big part of this election, and there definitely has to be some
the World
changes.
Health Organization is important because it has a good network and it has a good structure. Whether it's run efficiently or not, that can be discussed. But us not participating is a mistake. Now, I try from personal point of me, I try to be very objective. So if it's the Democrats or the Republicans, I really try to keep my independent view on these issues. And if people are able to kind of see what I have said in the past, they can actually see a lot of examples of this. Now, when I say certain things about in support for Trump, I also said with his cabinet picks, where he had some issues, and then immediately Matt Gaetz was a problem, and I knew that. A lot of people knew that, but he didn't want to see it. Problem. So that means Trump can make mistakes, obviously. So then I don't know if we have the picture of Elon and Vivek being part of this, DOGE together, like co-chairing that. And I said, which I think one of the shorts that we have this week is posted, it won't work because two powerhouses trying to do this government position, they have zero experience, and yet they're both running. How? Who's in charge? So they're not going to actually, let one take over. So, for example, when I'm in the settings with Dr. Erkan, when it's a clinical setting, I know where to stop because we both have management responsibilities, but my responsibilities in the business and his responsibilities in the clinical. But with Elon and Vivek, what's their, what that border is, not clear. And then it wasn't going to work out. And I said that in, I think either November or maybe December. And just this week, it came out that Vivek is no longer part of that. So meaning that this decision on withdrawing from WHO is wrong. Because when we are in almost 78 different countries with military bases, not utilizing the World Health Organization is a huge problem. So I think time will show, but I think that's a wrong decision.
Okay. And as I was mentioning,
now you were asking if who has the best healthcare. That that's not an easy answer. So people want to hear, oh, this is what it is, and that's what it is. That's not true because depending on what we demand, right, from the healthcare. So, for example, I mentioned this so many times, probably in so many different sessions. When you're in England, getting some MRI is probably not going to happen unless it's an emergency. 9 to 12 months waiting period. Okay. for a simple MRI. I say simple, but for them it's not simple. So what Americans wants to wait for 9 to 12 months for some elective MRI? If we have an answer to that question, and if the answer is yes, I'm going to wait for 12 months, then I will tell you that some of the European countries probably have the best system, but that's not for us. That's not for our culture here. So, and also, let's say it's Norway, right? What's the tax rate in Norway? Almost over 50% tax that they're paying. So there's no best, but there's a better fit. What's a better fit is our better version of what we have today, because we are different than European countries. We are different than Asian countries. So with the society that we live in, what society is demanding and what's reasonable, there are certain updates needs to be made. But I think the United States has the best system in the world. Now, keep in mind that I have a recent health emergency with my mom in Turkey, and then I have seen it where I actually wanted to cover that, but I have some limitations that I cannot say a lot of things. Like amazing buildings, amazing equipments, they're all up to date. Service is not same. So if I was running any of my offices here the way that it's been run over there, we would be shut down in 1 week. So can I say that that's the best? No, but is it accessible to a lot of people? Yes, but ours is also accessible to a lot of people. So I think the better version of what we have is what we need to work on. I think Trump may be able to take some efficiency measures to make this better, and we'll see in the next 4 years.
Following up on that, another healthcare related item we have here, which actually was probably discussed a little bit in that session with Dr. David Feinberg, but was the involvement of AI now in healthcare. So we know that's obviously a growing field, exponentially seeing growth, various companies trying to utilize AI to the best of their ability, but also at that same time doing so in the right approach. So where do you see that line being drawn for AI in its role to healthcare related?
So AI is a tool. So I use this term in our Bariatric Friday events. Bariatric surgery is the most powerful tool for fighting morbid obesity, right? So this is important because how the tool needs to be used and where it needs to be used is important. So we don't say that bariatric surgery is the most efficient tool for anyone. It's only for morbid obesity. So now AI, as long as we have a well-defined scope of how it needs to be used in terms of getting diagnostics, getting the analysis, like for example, like ChatGPT, right? So like it's not the same anymore. I don't want to Google anything anymore because that's dumb, because there's ChatGPT, and I pay a little bit more for more access and better access, and I'm able to prep for this event today in let's say maybe 6-7 times faster than when I was doing this searches on Google. And then before Google with paper stuff, we were doing that in days. So AI is going to make us more efficient for sure, and it needs to be utilized in the data and diagnostic and those types of scope. When it comes to emotional empathy or the judgment, then that's where we draw the line. So it happens sometimes when I do certain things with ChatGPT, working on a project, and I see that I can tell that this is not written by me. It's because it's cookie cutter almost, like there's so you need to actually put personalized part of what you know. So you cannot use these tools unless you are really knowledgeable in the area. So because it can just tell you whatever it wants to tell you, but how you are going to run that also is important in healthcare. So unless it's utilized by the experts, so it's not going to be helpful. But I know it's going to take us to a different level. So and definitely needs to be used. So there's no doubt there.
And then changing gears a little bit here, but still in relation to some of the new U.S. news, also on the global sense. I'm kind of going to blend the two items a little bit together here, but any updates or predictions you see related to BRICS? And then also, is cryptocurrency a serious alternative? Because we know that we saw that boom recently on some of the crypto markets. So any updates or thoughts there?
So BRICS is happening, but now I think it's going to take a different turn with Trump's administration, because Trump's approach is a lot more aggressive, which personally, okay, so, like when I look at these things, I have to have this balance between, there's Turkey and then there's US. This is my home. US is right now for the last 26 years. So I look at it from the US standpoint. So when Biden administration didn't do anything for 4 years for BRICS, that was a huge mistake, because BRICS is gonna put us in a lot of trouble financially if it takes off. So not doing anything is not an option. Now, Trump is going to change that most likely, and then there will be some battles that we are going to see. So this battle is it's something that we prefer, rather than just being in a war with people or countries, but just have these types of battles. This means we have to be smart. We have to not use financial sanctions out of proportions. We have to have good partnerships with certain countries, so we don't kind of isolate them. So these are all important. So BRICS is gonna probably momentum either with Trump's aggressive approach, maybe it's gonna motivate them more, or it's gonna probably slow them down. So we'll see. But I think crypto is so interesting. Many people already maybe know, but one thing is, crypto is an alternative to today's currency, right? Well, when we were covering the global currency with the dollar, then prior to that pound, there was the equivalent of every dollar, there was a gold actually in the bank, right? Actual gold. That changed after the Second World War. So now, what you have, the money is this. So now here's the United Medical's money. So this is the currency that we have. This is dollar, this is Turkish lira, this is whatever you want to call it. This is how kind of, it's like there's zero value in the paper money that we have today. And there's no control, there's no regulations, like, because there's no equivalent in some banks saying that, hey, I'm supporting this. So a lot of loans are being given without supporting the currency itself. Crypto is almost, I'm going to give you one kind of analogy. When we went from paper charts to the electronic charts for the patient, so that's almost what I see with crypto. So we are actually going from paper money to the electronic money, where regulation is better. So one maybe example of that, when you have a paper chart in the old days, you wouldn't know who was in your chart, who accessed your chart. With electronic, you know who accessed when, what time. So now, of course, it has other maybe issues where we have to make sure that cybersecurity is there and all the others. But I think crypto is the future. So I don't think we can actually do anything about it. And I don't think we should do anything about it. We just need to make sure that same thing happened to the paper money. It doesn't happen to the crypto in the future.
Sure, definitely. So I know we are running down on time here, about 3 minutes left.
Maybe this is not a question you don't want to ask, but I want to actually cover this. But if you want to ask, go ahead. But I do want to cover the Obama issue.
Oh, yeah, you can. So from the inauguration to any concerns you saw there regarding the previous
I think finishing this with, as you can see, I'm smiling. So finishing this today's session with this rumor is kind of like fun. Every once in a while, I do like these. So apparently, it's not what I'm saying. So And if Obama has done this good job, so he's apparently having an affair with Jennifer Aniston. So I didn't say this. I just, this is all over the place. I thought I'd just find this like last night, but then when I'm going through the other sources, it's been covered in so many different places. But because Michelle Obama didn't go to the President Carter's funeral, and then she wasn't at the Trump's inauguration. Those are two really important events, and then Obama shouldn't be left alone if they were in good terms, unless she had some emergency, we don't know. But apparently, these two are dating, and I'm the kind of the advocate of the person in the middle. She's actually saying this. I'm not saying it. Megyn Kelly, is it? So, but it would be kind of very interesting if this is true. Like, I think this is going to be fun. I want this to happen for whatever reason. So we'll see what's going to happen with it. So I know we tried to do a different format today. So next week we have another event. Following that, we have Seema Verma going to join us, Oracle Senior VP, former CMS administrator, and we'll be back next week. And then in the next 2 minutes, we are going to have the Bariatric Friday. Dr. Erkan is probably waiting for me. So we'll see you soon. Thank you.